Welcome. Today, we're diving into the mystery of the Shroud of Turin, a cloth that has fascinated people for centuries. But a recent study from August 2024 revealed some surprising findings. Before we jump in, don't forget to subscribe and help us grow this channel. Stay with us to the end for the full story. Now, let's get started. The Shroud of Turin is a piece of fabric that many believe is the burial cloth of Jesus Christ. Researchers from Italy's National Research Council's Institute of Crystallography have been studying this ancient artifact. For those new to this topic, the shroud is thought to be the cloth Jesus was wrapped in after his crucifixion. It was first displayed to the public in the 1300s, but skeptics argue it's just a medieval fake and not from ancient times. In the Bible, it said that Jesus was wrapped in cloth by Joseph of Arimathea and placed in a tomb, from which he later rose. On the shroud, there's a faint image of a man, not painted, but somehow printed on the cloth. Some traces of blood are visible, but not all of it is actual blood. What's unusual is that the shroud image looks like a photographic negative, showing a man who appears to have been tortured, crowned with thorns, and crucified. This figure is estimated to be around 6 feet tall, and it seems the image was created by light, not paint or ink. Since photography didn't exist in the Middle Ages, the shroud raises some big questions. How could something like this exist? Recently, researchers uncovered new details that could change what we know about the shroud. They found evidence in the blood traces on the shroud that aligns with the suffering Jesus endured, according to the Bible. The blood particles, which contain certain proteins from muscle contractions, show signs of extreme physical trauma. These bloodstains match what we would expect from someone who had been whipped, nailed, and even pierced after death. This includes marks on the hands, feet, and a wound on the chest, just like the spear wound mentioned in biblical accounts. The study's lead researcher, Julio Fanti, is an associate professor at the University of Padua's Department of Industrial Engineering. Many studies have focused on the Shroud of Turin, and some of the funding for these studies reportedly comes from a religious organization. In fact, Fanti was also asked to analyze the Padre Pio handkerchief, another religious artifact. So, what do you think? Could the shroud really be the burial cloth of Jesus, or is it a remarkable mystery from the past? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives into fascinating mysteries like this. Thanks for watching. This cloth, which bears the images of Jesus Christ and Saint Pio of Pietrelcina, is considered by some to be miraculous. When Christian Privitera, an engineer, studied it, he found something remarkable, almost transparent traces in the threads of the blood-stained shroud. He suggested this could be a fluid associated with a condition called pulmonary edema, which causes fluid buildup in the lungs. Other researchers have backed up this theory, connecting it to the story of Jesus' crucifixion. According to tradition, the Shroud of Turin was used to cover and cleanse Jesus' face after his crucifixion. Interestingly, scientists have observed certain details on the shroud that match the Gospel accounts. For example, they noted that the man's right eye appears sunken with a mark above it, suggesting an injury that could have been from a strike to the head. This imagery closely matches the details of Jesus' suffering, especially the scourging described in the Bible. Picture this, a 14-foot-long cloth with a full-length image of a man, front and back, showing wounds. It's like looking at an ancient photograph that brings the story of the crucifixion to life. Now, the Catholic Church has never officially confirmed the shroud's authenticity, and scientists have debated its origins for decades. In 1988, a carbon dating test suggested the cloth was from the 12th century, raising doubts about its authenticity. But the test was controversial. Some experts believe the cloth tested was actually a repair patch from the Middle Ages, not part of the original shroud. Then, in 2014, Italian forensic experts Matteo Barini and Luigi Garlascelli published a study suggesting that the blood patterns on the shroud didn't match those of a person who had been crucified. They even shared videos showing artificial blood flow patterns to support their claim. However, many researchers disagreed, arguing that the older studies on real human bodies provided more accurate results. So, is the Shroud of Turin the actual burial cloth of Christ, or a medieval forgery? Scientists have gone to great lengths to find answers. Recently, a team used X-rays to study tiny samples from the shroud's fabric, analyzing how cellulose in the linen ages over time. They found that the cloth structure and aging patterns seem to match materials from the 1st century. This ongoing debate around the Shroud of Turin keeps us wondering, could this really be the burial cloth of Jesus? Or is it an ancient mystery waiting to be fully uncovered? If you're as captivated by this story as we are, consider supporting our mission by clicking the Super Thanks button below. Your support helps us continue exploring these extraordinary stories. From around 55 to 74 AD, experts compared the Shroud of Turin to samples of linen from the 13th and 14th centuries, when it was believed the shroud was made. But there were big differences between the samples, suggesting the shroud may actually come from the 1st century, not the Middle Ages. In other words, it might date back to the time of Christ's crucifixion. Dr. Liberato De Caro, the lead researcher, noted that fabric samples are often contaminated, which affects carbon dating. For instance, if a sample isn't cleaned well enough, it skews the accuracy of carbon-14 dating. This is why more precise techniques are now used, and recent studies suggest that the Shroud of Turin could be similar to the burial cloths of Jesus. So what's your take on the Shroud of Turin? A mysterious cloth with an image that science can't fully explain. It's even more intriguing when you consider the technology available back then. Many people initially dismissed the shroud as a fake, just superstition. But imagine showing them research proving that this cloth is ancient and that its image is like a photographic negative. For some, this is mind-blowing and even a little unsettling. Then there's another incredible relic, the tilma of Our Lady of Guadalupe. This simple cloth, made from the fabric of a poor farmer's garment, should have deteriorated within 30 to 40 years. But it's still in good condition after 5 centuries. In the early 20th century, anarchists tried to blow up the church housing it. While the explosion destroyed nearby items, the tilma survived, and a nearby crucifix even bent as if protecting it. Even scientists were amazed to find the tilma's eyes reflected the room it was in, almost like something out of a mystery novel. Relics like the Shroud of Turin and the tilma are controversial, even for some religious people. They argue that religion is more about spiritual beliefs than these physical items. A passage in 1 Corinthians says, "The Greeks seek wisdom, and the Jews seek signs, but we preach Christ crucified." A stumbling block to the Jews and foolishness to the Greeks, but to those who are called Christ is the power of God and the wisdom of God. God's weakness is stronger than man's strength, and God's foolishness is wiser than human wisdom. When you read studies like these, it begins to make sense, and you think, wow, this could actually be the miraculous burial shroud of Christ. You might also consider the possibility that the tilma is a miraculous image that no one can explain. The simplest and most convincing answer is that these might actually be real miracles. You may suddenly conclude, wow, maybe all that the Bible and the Church have taught about how God desires to be worshipped and how we should live is true. It's something actual and significant rather than just theoretical concepts. For many people, this idea may seem surprising and even unsettling. It's disturbing to consider that religion might be more than just a matter of personal preference, and that it might have actual tangible solutions. What if there's an authentic truth and a proper way to live? You might need to use your reasoning to embrace faith, revelation, and morality to gain a true understanding of God. If you enjoy our content and want to support us, click on the Super Thanks button below. Your Super Thanks is not just a donation. It is a blessing that supports our mission to share the transformative journey of Jesus. If you've made it all the way to this part of the video, you may qualify for our membership, so you might want to listen closely. It's an exclusive area where we release videos that we cannot show to the public. You'll get to see everything first and learn about truths that we cannot reveal anywhere else.